UConn women's basketball, Ryan, to play Florida State at Mohegan Sun on December 18th. It's Phil and Ryan back on Listen Up after a very long break off, Ryan. Ryan, I'm glad you made it back from Florida. I know that you probably can say the same about me because I was stuck. I was literally stuck in Miami Airport overnight. First time ever. I hope that's the last time ever that I have to spend the night at an airport, hearing the vacuums running, people walking back and forth. Oh, what a nightmare.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I really felt bad for you when you had to stay in the overnight in the airport. But I know we had that trouble one other time, but when our flight got delayed, tried to go to Florida, but we didn't have to stay overnight. But it sure is a long day when your flight gets delayed. But I know we both had a good time, and now we're back and ready, refreshed to talk more UConn women's basketball.
That's right. We can't ever talk about enough UConn women's basketball. We know you guys are watching. We know you all can't wait. We appreciate you coming through every single video, Ryan, as we will go over the comments section after this episode. Let's get into the topic today, Ryan. We're talking about Florida State taking on UConn, Ryan, in the Basketball Hall of Fame Women's Showcase this season. I saw that UConn is a perfect 9-0 against Florida State. Florida State made the NCAA tournament, Ryan, and I believe they got knocked in the first four. They made it as an 11 seed, I saw. So, again, the Huskies are a perfect 9-0 all time. I saw that, and I'm expecting this to bump up to 10-0. You talk about a winning ball club, not only with the rich history of Gino, and we talk about it over and over again, but again, this is not any type of rebuild season, far from it. We're expecting another big winning season out of this ball club. Hey, I mean, how many times can you sit back and say, even if UConn suffers some major injuries again this season, which we hope not, that you can still go on a run and try to win it all? You can't say that about many teams, because I called you up this morning. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, like a hockey or NBA. And I'm like, Ryan, it's so hard to win if you don't have your top players. But hats off to this team. It looks like UConn, they suffer some major injuries last season. They still find their way in the championship game.
Yeah, I think we were talking about the Rangers and Hurricanes game last night, and Carolina didn't have their goalie, and they gave up 6 goals. So it's hard in any sport when you don't have your best player, or you're down a couple players, and we saw that from UConn last season. But for Florida State, they got a new head coach for this season, a couple roster changes. So like you mentioned, they lost in the Final Four game last year. So I think it's a kind of a little bit of a rebuild for the Florida State Seminoles women's team for this year. So I would expect UConn to be able to come up on top in this tournament. It's also Iowa and Villanova are also playing, or it's not a tournament, it's an event. Iowa and Villanova will also play at the event. So we'll also be able to see Caitlin Clark in action at the Women's Showcase. But I saw where Gino commented on the game, and he said, "We look forward to playing at Mohegan Sun every season. The Basketball Hall of Fame always puts on a great event with great games. It should be another exciting experience this year in the Women's Showcase." So we can't wait for them to play this game. Like you mentioned, Huskies 9-0 against Florida State all time. Most recently beating the Seminoles back in 2016 by 2 points, and they also played back in 2015 in this same event in the Women's Showcase. And I also saw some more news on the schedule for the upcoming season. Non-conference slate for the Huskies also includes the Phil Knight Legacy Basketball Tournament, which takes place in Oregon. Field also includes Duke, Iowa, and Oregon State. So UConn has a chance to maybe play Iowa in that tournament. That would be a lot of fun. The matchups and dates haven't been announced yet because the schedule obviously hasn't released yet, but also expected opponents on UConn's schedule. We got NC State, Notre Dame, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas. So dates and times, of course, haven't been released, but we're starting to get closer. We're starting to get a lot of schedule news, some expected teams to be on UConn's schedule. South Carolina is probably the biggest one. So Like I said, nothing is final yet about these teams or whoever UConn is playing, but it sure is exciting to be getting some news on who UConn will be facing for the upcoming season.
I know, big episode tomorrow morning, guys. So make sure you stick around for that one, Ryan, as we learn that this team will be gathered up tomorrow morning. We're going to have more on that tomorrow, discussing about it. You're right. As it gets closer, two things on my list, Ryan, I want to touch on really quickly before we get into the comments. My favorite thing about these showcases and these tournaments, like, I'm not going to say these fans are forced to watch UConn basketball, but at the same time, if it's set up the way the NCAA tournament is, like you and I went down to see the Maryland Terps, right, in the first and
Right.
second round. We had, I
Yep.
thought I was buying tickets to one game, and we buy tickets to the first and second round. Anyhow, we were treated to watching several other teams. We got to see a lot of other talent on that court other than just the Maryland Terps. So I think it's very exciting for like UConn fans and Iowa State fans and Villanova fans to see Paige Beckers and company, to see Gino and what he can bring to the table this season. That's what I love about it the most, is not only you have Florida State and UConn fans there, you have Iowa State fans and Villanova fans that can take in this beautiful magic that UConn women's basketball provides.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of the same thing in the March Madness tournament, because you get fans from all over the place supporting their team, and when their team goes out, they're still able to come in and see all these other great teams that women's college basketball has to offer. So it's really a great experience for everybody, and I know as fans, we can't wait to see UConn and all the other teams that UConn will be facing this season. But obviously, I'm most excited for South Carolina and Iowa. But anytime you get to see somebody, especially non-conference, out of UConn's conference, it's always exciting because you don't really know what to expect from these out-of-conference teams.
And then I scroll down a little later, or actually a little bit further down the article before we come on this episode, and or before we came on rather, and it says, according to UConn, donors and season ticket holders can purchase tickets now by logging onto their account, and then public tickets go on sale September the 9th, Ryan. So, hey, I'm going to hopefully, hey, how about one of y'all watching this podcast actually provide Ryan and I some tickets to a game, and then we'll see y'all down there. How about that, Ryan? Wouldn't that be a nice treat?
That would be, but we definitely need to head down sometime to see UConn. That's for sure.
Well, not only see UConn, to see their fans, because hey,
Yeah.
what they have done for us, man. Again, we can't thank you all enough. Words cannot express how much we appreciate every single one of you for this past almost a year, Ryan. Now it's hard to believe.
Yeah, I think it has almost been a year. Yeah, it's hard to believe. Time really does fly by fast.
So you want to punch that date on your calendar. Do not forget, public tickets go on sale September the 9th, Ryan. We can't wait. Going over to the comments section, Ryan, before we get some good sleep and head out for the next episode early tomorrow morning. The last episode, we will go over the comment section. UConn Huskies #1 best moment of the year. I believe that's right before we left for Florida. Ryan, John, thanks, John, for coming through. He goes, Paige Beckers is absolutely the leader of the Huskies and the heart and soul of this university. Gino Auriemma said it right. Paige gives everyone confidence. Great show.
Yeah, she really does. I mean, she is the leader of the team. But when we saw she went out with that injury, she was still on the sidelines supporting all her teammates, and that was really great to see. But there was also a lot of other players that stepped up for UConn. Not only when Beckers was injured, but when we had other players circulating out of the lineup. AZ Fudd, Caroline Ducharme were probably the two most impressive, especially because they were freshmen coming in their first season. So I was really surprised to see them just blossom into the roles so quickly, especially after we learned Caroline Ducharme had to deal with that injury throughout the whole entire season, that hip injury. So that makes it even more impressive.
Jason D'Amico, thanks again, Jason, for coming through. When I think back to the 21-22 season, for me, the #1 moment was not just the North Carolina State game itself, but the moment Aaliyah Edwards scored the putback. bucket off the missed three-pointer from AZ Fudd in the second overtime. You could feel the energy from the crowd surge, and it was self-evident that Aaliyah had come full circle. She worked so hard to overcome the sophomore blues and criticism received earlier in the year, and then with one monster play, canceled the doubters and proved once again why she belongs in a UConn uniform. I literally jumped off my couch and cheered with that score. It was truly a golden moment. Enjoy your time off, fellas. Well-deserved. Peace. And actually, Ryan, that's the last comment we had time for today. Something came up. We will finish the comment section tomorrow morning on this video. But go ahead and analyze on that one.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many great moments from that NC State game. It's hard to just pick just one moment. Paige Becker's going off. AZ Fudd, Caroline Ducharme had pretty good games. And of course, with Dorka out, everybody had to contribute that played in that game. It was a heck of a game, the game of the year. But Aaliyah really did step up because, like you mentioned, she was in that slump. And I talked about that a little bit in the beginning of the season. So I was really glad to see her kind of step up throughout that tournament. She played pretty good. But I think there's even higher expectations for her coming into her junior year. So I'm definitely excited to see what Aaliyah has to offer for us for this season.
Summer practice for UConn women's basketball just hours away. It's Phil and Rye on Listen Up.